Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at a gaming PC that I just bought from Costco. It's made by CyberPowerPC, and the reason I bought this PC is because, as you probably are very well aware, getting a graphics card or GPU right now is really rather difficult. And if you can even find them in stock, they're ridiculously expensive. So consequently, the easiest way to get your hands on one is often to buy a pre-built machine. So that's what I've kind of resorted to in this case. So what I want to find out is how this machine compares to my current machine, which I actually built about 4 years ago or so. And it is an i7 8700K Intel-based system, obviously. And I'm running an older NVIDIA GTX 1070 Ti video card on it. I think I've got 32 gigs of RAM on that thing. And it's served me very well. But my wife really needs an upgrade at this point in time as well, and she's agreed to do sort of the hand-me-down dance with me. And so she's going to get my older Intel system, which will be a huge upgrade for her, and I'm going to use this new PC from CyberPowerPC that I got from Costco. So this particular model is an SLC 9100C, and it is a Ryzen 7 5800X CPU, and it comes with 16 gigs of RAM, I think, so I may have to bump that to 32, but I'm going to see how well it runs on 16. It may be sufficient. And then as far as the graphics card, it comes with an NVIDIA RTX 3070. Not the Ti, but the base 3070. But it's got 8 gigabytes of graphics RAM on it, so it's still reasonable. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is because I found it very difficult buying this online, kind of sight unseen. Costco's specs listings they left a lot to be desired. Like, for example, I'm not really sure what motherboard is in this machine. I don't know how many M.2 drives it'll accept. I'm hoping that it accepts 2, but I don't know that for a fact. And I'm not sure if this is a single DIMM or it is a double DIMM for a 16 gigs, if it's got 2 8 sticks in it, or if it's got 1 16, or God forbid 4 gigabyte DIMMs. I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but we shall see. So I'm not even sure what kind of cooler is in this thing. But we'll find out together. So I think if you're interested in looking at this PC from Costco, this will be an opportunity for you to at least learn more about what you can expect when you get it. So let's jump in and find out what's in the box. Now, it does come with a CyberPowerPC LED keyboard. I've got a RYZEN keyboard, so I'm probably not even going to use this, but it'll make a nice backup keyboard in case I need it. Oh, okay, so right out of the box, they did give me the original box for the motherboard. So this is nice. So this is an Asus Prime X570P, and that is good. Got a quick start guide. All right, here's the mouse that I probably will also not use, although this might be an upgrade. And let's see, there's the motherboard guide, some software DVDs that they still ship, if you can believe that. That's kind of crazy because I would almost guarantee you there's not a DVD drive on this PC. Looks like we got some extra cables. Looks like this is probably my Wi-Fi antenna. That's nice. Got my power cord and some SATA cables for extra drives, which is good because I am definitely going to need to put some extra drives in this computer, including, I know it comes with one M.2, but I'm hoping it has that second socket, which based on the picture here, seems a safe bet at this point, so that's good news. All right, so it's got an NZXT case. This is what it looks like. It's got a big old CyberPower logo in front. So on the top, you can see I've got a USB-A and a USB-C, and then I've got I'm assuming that's a headphone / mic port, but it might just be a headphone port. Not really sure. Wow. I'm going to have to open it up, obviously, before I plug it in, which I was going to do anyway, but that's kind of silly. Do not connect monitor here. So I'm guessing what they're trying to tell you with this little label is to not plug the monitor into the motherboard monitor, because I think there's probably a connector, probably an HDMI on the motherboard. Well, there's a DisplayPort connector. Yeah, so they're basically saying, hey, you've got a graphics card here, use the graphics card. But got the sound card integrated. Looks like there's a standard gigabit Ethernet. So there's a lot of USB ports on the back of this thing. There's a total of 8, 6 of which are USB super speed. And then there's an old PS2 style keyboard connector in there. I'm assuming that is not what this is. It's probably a USB keyboard because after all, it is not the year 2000. Oh. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Usually these things contain a ton of static. I'm hoping that is not the case here. So this looks pretty clean. I'm going to switch to the GoPro to give you a better look. So here's a closer look at the inside. You can see we've got a Cooler Master all-in-one liquid cooled unit. Looks like there's some RGB accents on here, so that's going to be nice when we power that up. Two T-Force DIMMs here, Vulcan Z. And these are 3200, so 8 gigabyte DDR 3200. So at least I know I can upgrade this by buying 2 more 8 gigabyte DDRs. Now down here we've got the 1 terabyte M.2 drive. This is a Western Digital Blue SN550. So that is what everything's on now. So the other port, I'm going to take the GPU or the graphics card out to put my other M.2 drive in there. But I like the fact that we've got the Cooler Master all-in-one with some LED accents. Pretty good sized fans. So we got 2 fans here in the front, again with LED accents. We got a roof fan, or see a top fan, and rear exiting fan. Let's take off the back side and see what that part looks like. All right, so this is what the back looks like. So we've got a couple of mounting brackets here for, these will be good for the SATA SSDs that I have. I'll be able to put those in there. And yeah, you know, to be honest, the cabling is a little bit messy back here, but I guess this is where you hide most of your work. They did use cable ties on these, which is, at least they did the time to do that. They didn't bother clipping off the excess here. Maybe not as good as you might expect from other types of builders, but there's some nice cable tie downs and channels here to route cables up through inside. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the look of this thing. I think it's a pretty clean look. And by the way, from a cost standpoint, if I were to have bought most of the components in here and built this machine myself, it probably would have cost me about $300 more, roughly $250 to $350 more, depending on how lucky I was on some of the pricing to get the same build out. So this really did save me money to buy it this way. And I think the bulk of that would just be the $1,000 I'd have to spend just for the 3070 GPU. So let's jump into the future and find out how this thing really compares. All right, so I've had this PC operational for a good 3 or 4 weeks now, so fairly long time. And I've got some observations that I want to share with you. First of all, about just the build quality. Number one, there should be on the bottom, underneath the power supply, a dust filter that's easily removable. And there's not. And it's not just that it's not included with this case. It absolutely should be included with this case. The the little brackets and everything are there, but for some reason they didn't send me the dust filter. So I'm going to have to try to call them and see if I can get them to send me one. And that, I don't know what kind of a nightmare that's going to be. But I'm already starting to pull dust up into the power supply, and it really bothers me that that attention to detail was missed. I'll put another picture up here of something else. I didn't appreciate the fact that the USB ports and the integrated ports on the motherboard didn't align very well with the little dust plate in the back. They don't look as bad now, but man, I had trouble getting almost any of the USB cables to to insert because the ports were misaligned with the plate. So it took me quite a bit of goofing around with that to actually be able to plug my USB cables in. That was kind of frustrating. Now that aside, I will say the machine is operated very well. It's got all these nice LED RGB accents. I'm not a huge fan of that. The keyboard even has them. Now I'm not actually using this keyboard. I'm using my RYZEN keyboard. But this keyboard isn't bad, I will say. I have played around with it. It's got a nice little volume wheel here on the upper right. And it's not a bad keyboard. I am using the mouse, so I have replaced my old sort of generic Logitech mouse with the one that came with it. It's a pretty nice mouse, and I do appreciate that. So I also did a comparison between this new Ryzen 7 versus my old Intel machine in video rendering using PowerDirector. So what I did is I took a 42-minute long 4K project and did a full render on that project, exactly the same project on both machines. And you can put the results up here for you. You can see on the top the i7 8700K with the 1070 Ti finished in 26 minutes and 53 seconds. and then I ran the exact same render on this Ryzen 7 5800X with the RTX 3070 GPU, and it finished in 23 minutes and 39 seconds. That's not a huge difference. That's only about a 12% faster improvement on the Ryzen system. I really thought it was going to be significantly faster than that, but it wasn't. One difference that between the two machines is that the i7 does have 32 gigabytes on it. This one does have 16 gigabytes of RAM on it. So I don't think that would make a significant difference, although I'm probably gonna have to buy the other 16 gigs to add to this just to see if it actually makes any difference at all. And I'll put a comment later on in that if that's important to you to know that, if that helped or not. I'm not expecting it to make a big difference. So the other thing I did was I've been playing that new Amazon game called New World, which you may have heard of. And so I wanted to test this out in a gaming sense to see if the gaming experience was significantly different or not, or even noticeably different in any way. And I'll put some clips up here. So first, here's a clip of the of New World. You can see here I've got some decent armor on. It's got some metallic components to it, so you can really kind of get a sense of how that looks. And as I move around the space here, you can kind of see how smooth it is. I have all the graphics settings to very high, and in the upper right-hand corner, you can see there I've got the frames per second turned on. I'm pretty much consistent at 60 frames per second on this game with this particular hardware setup, and all of the graphics maxed out. And so now let's pop up the i7 8700K performed with the 1070 Ti. Now I did this obviously on a different machine, so I started a new character, and so I don't have quite the flashy armor on this character, but you can get a sense. I actually set the graphics at very high just to get an apples to apples comparison in that sense. And I really don't notice much difference in terms of the smoothness of the gameplay. Even the fight scenes seem to be pretty smooth, and I'm just not noticing like drop frames and things like that. No stuttering or jaggedness. And so really there's not a significant difference in the gaming experience between this newer Ryzen 7 5800X versus the older Intel i7 8700K. I think that's probably more of a statement about what a fantastic card that 1070 Ti really was for the money back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago when I bought it. And how it actually, even though on raw specs it's probably 15 or 20% lower performance than the RTX 3070, I don't notice that, at least in a game like New World. There's not a big difference, and that 1070 Ti really holds its own. So if you've got an older machine, something in the i7 8700K range, and you've got something in the range of a 1070 Ti graphics card, I think you're going to be just fine. I mean, as you saw, there's really not a big difference. I needed to do this upgrade really just to get my wife into a better computer, and then me along the way getting a little bit of an upgrade. Now for $2,000, if would I have bought this machine knowing what I know now for myself if I was the one just simply upgrading from an i7 8700K with a 1070 Ti to this guy, this Ryzen system? And I would say for $2,000, getting a 12% performance bump in my rendering times and virtually no real noticeable difference in gaming experience, no. I would not spend $2,000 if I was starting with the system that I had, that I actually replaced it with. Now the fact remains that I did need to do the upgrade for my wife because she was operating on a much older system. And so that i7 system is a tremendous bump up for her. This is a modest bump up for me. It's not a significant one. I'm actually generally happy with this machine. I feel like it is a little bit on the low end build quality in terms of the case. The case is okay. My older case was also an NZXT, but it was a different model. It was just a little bit better quality than this one was. I do like the white. I feel like the white case is kind of cool. It's just something different because I've had a black case PC forever. I'm generally happy with the machine once I got past the misalignment of the USB ports, and then as I said, I'm going to have to address the issue with the dust filter on the bottom. So they're going to have to make that right. So that's about all I got for you on this one. If you found anything helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have fun out there.